Hello there, Master Hellish here, and welcome to Army Analysis. Today, back at the Tau Codex, and we're looking at the fast attack. As always, I'm here with Arek, Grand Master of all tactics. I call you that, but you do usually beat me. So.
Yeah, but that speaks more for your tactics than mine.
That's true. I'm very much a learner in this edition.
Yeah.
Since 6th edition came out, my army's changed. And no, both of my armies have changed.
Yeah, they both had a rewrite, and obviously Necron still haven't had any love.
Yeah, so oh well, but maybe we'll come on to Necrons next.
Possibly.
Put in the comments what army you want to see next in these army analysis, and we'll see what we can come up with.
Yeah, but you're only allowed to choose between Necrons
and Necrons.
Chaos Space Marines. We could do.
Nah, we could probably do quite a few once we get through. Anyway, right, fast attack, Tau. First thing in there, Pathfinders.
Yes, always take them.
I could do a whole video probably on just Pathfinders.
You probably could. I mean, if you watch the HQ analysis that we did, the little tactic I mentioned there with Darkstrider, I use him in my Necron army as an allied detachment quite often. Brilliant idea. Just take a small unit with, obviously, you get your Markalites, get the rail rifles in, and you instant death your toughness 4 opponents. Markalites themselves are great, not so great in an allied detachment, of course.
No.
There's a lot of other options here, though, that we didn't really explore in that. So I think maybe that's something that we need to go into now. Yeah,
I mean, there's so many different ways you can build a Pathfinder squad.
Yeah.
You can have pretty much just Markalites.
You can, yeah. Some people do it. You could take the minimum 4-man unit with Markalites. You could go for a full 10 and just put Markalites on everybody.
Which can be very good, especially if you can get them at the front in a very good cover.
Yeah. I mean, obviously you've got your scouts, so you can get up there.
And the Markalites go further now than they used to.
Yes, they do, yeah.
It makes them a lot more useful, because in the past, with the Pathfinders, I found even if you put them as far forward as possible, you can't really light up everything that you want to. And then the other shooting in the army doesn't get everything that it needs.
No.
But now, that little bit of extra range, you can now have more options of things to light up that you really want to, and I think they're a lot more useful.
They are. It's also worth noting they can fire snapshots. I don't think it's actually listed in here that they can, but I believe it was errated. They can fire a snapshot, so using the supporting fire special rule, if they're at the front, enemy charges, you get, say you've got a full unit of 10, alright, you're probably only going to get a couple of 6s, but that means whoever's supporting your fire is then firing a ballistic skill 3, which is your regular Tau shooting, and all of a sudden that Overwatch becomes considerably more effective. Yeah,
but you have to make sure that they're not out there on their own.
Yes, they're very difficult to use solo. They do need a bit of support. If you're going to use them solo, the only real option is to go with the Devilfish, pick your favourite drone, and use them as scouts and flankers.
Yeah. Sometimes I have 2.
Yeah.
And I think that having one in the middle of the battlefield, up front, in cover, and then having another one come in, flanking round from one of the sides, can be a very good way to bring in and cover a lot of the board.
Yeah, it is useful. I mean, we should look at the options, really, I suppose. The 2 weapons, as we'll start there. The ion rifle, I personally actually think is the better of the 2 options. Now, I know I've already said I always take the rail rifle, but that's situational. My Necron army does not want for strength 5 AP4 weapons. No. They're everywhere. The ion rifle, the ability to overcharge and get that blast template is very, very useful against anything with the word warrior in the name, really. Necron, Tau Fire, Guardian, Dark Eldar, all of them, they've all got a 4-up save and a blast weapon with AP4, and it's going to instant death the majority of those. Very, very useful weapon. Yeah.
And you can have, 3 of them, is it?
I think you get 3, yes. So there is some call for just taking the minimum 4-man squad. Obviously you get your Chasui, however you want to pronounce it, and then the 3 weapons. It's not a bad idea.
No, and the points are quite cheap for that.
They are pretty cheap. The only problem there is you don't have any excess wounds to soak up the incoming fire. Every wound you take is a hit to the squad. But if you tie it for points, you can do it sometimes.
Yeah.
The same goes for the rail rifle. It's not ideal for throwing tanks, but it can tackle light armour.
Lighter tanks,
if you need it to transport.
Especially though if you're coming on from the side with your infiltrate.
Yeah. If you manage to get the outflank,
you might be able to get side or even rear armour on a tank.
Yeah, and it's worth noting they are rapid fire, so you can get those 2 shots, which obviously doubles. I've done the maths on that, but it probably doubles your effectiveness. They're a bit pricey for me. If you lose one, you've lost a lot of points.
With the iron rifle themselves, it's a very expensive upgrade.
Yeah,
but still, very useful item in there.
It is, yeah. And then the third weapon, I say weapon, is the MP grenades. Very, very useful for smaller squads.
Yes.
If you want to run forward and maybe try and not suicide, but take on a tank. Large squads, probably not, because you don't want to run forward and suicide.
And also it gets very expensive.
It can, yeah.
I think fire warriors with EMP grenades in smaller groups can be more effective.
Absolutely. I mean, I can see that there is a reason to do it. You could take 6 of them with EMP grenades, do the same job as the fire warriors, because they're not much more expensive. But the fact that you've got scouts, so you can get further forward, arguably you're going to kill a tank a turn quicker. But
I think if I'm outflanking with the Pathfinders, I'd be more likely to put the EMP grenades on than if I've just got them at the front line in cover.
Possibly, yeah.
Because those guys at the front line in cover, they're just going to sit there and light everything up for everything else.
Yeah.
Where those guys coming on around the back, around the side, they're going to be getting in there. So I think that's the main difference for the way I play them.
Yeah. And then, of course, you've got the drones, which they really do affect how you play the unit itself. The recon drone is the most expensive one.
It's very expensive.
It is very expensive, and it's very situational, I find, for what it is. Obviously, it's got your burst cannon on it, which you're paying a lot of points for anyway.
It's an expensive burst.
It is an expensive burst cannon. It's a very expensive burst cannon to have such a low ballistic skill. You're not really going to do much with it. And I believe it has the locator beacon, whatever the Tau call that particular piece of orbit, to stop scatter. It's not bad. I've seen a lot of people put it in a transport in reserve and try and bring it onto the side, but of course, if you check the errata, it does have to be on the table at the beginning of the turn.
Yeah.
So if it arrives, the rest of the reserves that arrive on turn 2
can't follow it.
Can't use it.
No.
So you're then relying on turn 3. The battle's probably half over.
You need to, unless you've got particular tactics in mind, on a general game, you have to get in and get on with the game. You can't wait for things to be coming in turn 3.
No, I mean, don't get me wrong, if you had an option to delay reserves to turn 3, yes, I can see a massive use for it. But the fact that you could plan something around using that locator beacon, and then it comes on turn 2, and it's useless, or heaven forbid, your Pathfinders don't come on.
Yeah.
Start them on the board, happy days.
And then everything can end up coming on apart from them.
Yeah.
You can't rely on that with the reserves.
No. The second option is grab inhibitor drone. For me, if you can't think of another drone to take that one.
Yeah, that's what I take normally.
It's brilliant. It, for those of you who don't know, it limits the charge distance that your opponent gets to you. Great in combination with Dark Strider. I believe it lowers your opponent's charge distance to being 5 on average.
It really does bring the odds down. I mean,
you get D3 and D6, I believe, off their charge distance, which is fantastic to have.
And also, if you combine that with walls and terrain,
even better.
I think they roll an extra dice and take the 2 lowest. So.
So I believe that makes the average of your opponent's roll down to a 2.
It really does bring the stats down. It makes it very difficult to assault them. So if you've got the grav drone, you've got your cover.
Yeah.
You're going to be pretty much well hunkered in there.
That's the way to do it with that particular drone. And of course you still get to Overwatch even if they fail the charge.
Yeah. The other option is the pulse accelerator drone.
Now this one I haven't really had any experience using. As I say, I've only ever used the grav inhibitor drone. It's worth saying you can take all 3. If you do it, you've wasted a lot of points.
It is a lot of points, yeah. I mean, you want to be taking the drone that matches the situation of what you're going to be doing with the squad. Yeah. Sometimes, not take any.
Yeah, you don't have to take a drone.
You don't have to take one. I would take the grav if you were going to be taking.
Yeah, if you had a couple of points spare. The pulse accelerator drone really makes them into a unit that they shouldn't be, if that makes sense. It gives them the range of the rifle, the pulse rifle, so it increases the range by 6 inches. But only pulse weapons, so the iron rifle and the rail rifle are unaffected.
Yeah, that's
so
one of the main. What's one of my main bugbears with that is that they give you something that it makes the squad more effective at the range, but then some of the specialist weapons that you can have in the squad can't have that. So.
I don't know. It just seems stupid to me. Basically, what they've done is they've looked at this squad and they thought, do you know what Tau need? They need more 30-inch range, strength 5 weapons.
Do they?
And it's pointless. Don't get me wrong. People at home are going to be shouting, "Their assault, their assault!" You get 2 shots at the longer range. Yes, you do. You get the pinning. Well done. But that's not what they're for.
That's not what the squad's for. No.
No.
There's a few different options. You've obviously got your bonding knife, which you can normally get, and things like that, and things like black sun filters and things.
If anybody looks at this codex and doesn't pay 1 point for a black sun filter, then you don't deserve to be playing. 1 point is ridiculously underpriced for that weapon, especially because that's your marker light squad.
Yeah.
That is ridiculously underpointed.
Yeah, if you get a game that's starting with that, then it can be very helpful.
Yeah.
And the last thing to talk about on this one for me is the dedicated transport.
Yeah, it's always a point of contention with Tau players. It is over. I know everybody sat there. It's overpriced. It's overpriced. It is overpriced, but it's also a lot more versatile than most other transports that every other team gets. And it
can have a lot of options.
It has got a lot of options. It's a skimmer, which immediately gives it better options.
Yeah.
I kind of agree with you. It's a touch overpriced, but not as much as a lot of you think. I think it's 115. Is it?
I'll have to check it out, but yeah, I think it's around that.
It's going to be nowhere near that now. I've said that, is it?
No, it's nowhere near that. You was thinking of something else. It's
Probably
80.
80 points. I mean, 80 points. It's still a bit overcosted. A Rhino obviously is 50, unless you're Blood Angels. The Necron one, though, for example, alright, it's got the quantum shielding, and everyone's going to say that's better, is a lot more. In fact, it might be 115. That might be what I was thinking of.
Yeah.
But, count your blessings. It's not that expensive, and it can have the 2 Seeker missiles.
Yeah, and you can also, I think you can put a smart missile system on it as well. I haven't done that, but it might be interesting to look at. I think if you're coming on and you're going to be outflanking, a Devilfish might be interesting.
Yeah.
If you don't want to outflank, but you want to get forward, Devilfish. If you're just going to be sat in the middle lighting up, I don't know why you would take the Devilfish. Especially if you've got that grav drone and you're in the terrain.
I suppose it's a bit of extra firepower. You could put it on the board and just don't start in it, and then turn one, move off, and if you really need one extra burst cannon,
yeah,
if you start
again,
in it,
that's an expensive burst cannon.
It is a very expensive burst cannon. If you start in it, most players you will find, if you're not well covered, or if you haven't got the disruption pod, I believe it is, that gives you shrouded. Your toughness 3, you've only got a 5-up save. When that explodes, there's a good chance you're going to lose probably a third of your unit. So be very careful of that.
Yeah. Okay.
So next up,
a lot to say on Pathfinders there, but they are so critical for the Tau army overall.
Yeah.
And hopefully you've got a bit of insight into that now. And I'd love to do some test scenarios with that sometime soon. But now the Vespids.
Vespids are. Right, now a lot of you at home again are going to say, oh, I take Vespids, they're fantastic, and they do this and this. They're extremely situational. For me, I've said this before, I'm not sure on this channel, Vespid are designed to deep strike in and kill a Space Marine Devastator squad or equivalent.
Yeah, something
specifically
like that.
that.
Small squads of Space Marines, not large ones.
I mean, you can't do it to a tactical squad to me, and I'm saying Space Marines here because of the Neutron Blaster being AP3. So to me, that's specifically what they're designed for.
That's the best thing about it.
And they can deep strike because they're jump infantry, of course. The AP3 is nice. It's gonna, if you do it to a tactical squad, you've wasted points because they cost a lot less than you, and you're only toughness 4 with a 4-up save. You're just going to get rapid fired to death.
You're not going to win in the long run.
No, you can't hurt Terminators.
No,
particularly. No. Good luck. I mean, don't get me wrong; they're a nice strength. They're a good number of shots, so you might do all right. But it's probably a waste.
You need to find something that you can take out in one go.
Yes.
Before you get that return fire.
Yeah, pick a target that is worth killing. It's worth noting as well, if you are playing against Tau, Crisis Battlesuits are the target you should be picking here. You've got a high enough strength and AP, you're going to do a good bit of damage, and they're going to cost a lot more than you. Yes,
they're very expensive in comparison to these. So, on one hand, they're not too costly.
No.
Around the same as as the dedicated transport cost. But on the other hand, they're very, very situational.
They are.
I've used them in lots of battles and in the past, and unless you do use them in those situations, you may as well just leave them in the case.
I mean, there's.
They can put a few shots out on the board, but they don't last long.
You could put them down. They've got stealth ruins, which is useful. Ruins obviously are, I believe, a 4-up cover save, so that would make them 3+. They're toughness 4. They are then Space Marines. They're as survivable as Space Marines.
Yes. But only in those ruins.
Only in the ruins. They cost a touch more than some Space Marines, a touch less than others. They do have move through cover, so you're not going to worry about crashing with you being jump infantry. They do have hit and run and fleet. Kind of useful.
Makes them very manoeuvrable.
I don't see why you'd charge. You got 1 attack. Initiative 6. Brilliant.
But
I'm not sure what you've achieved there.
You've got in there. You're going to do something, but not much.
Yeah, I mean, you could finish a squad. The weapons are assault, obviously. You come down, you put a few shots in. Maybe there's 2 or 3 left. You charge, you'll probably kill them.
Yeah, I think if you're trying to take out that small squad that we mentioned before, and you don't quite do it, you're not going to lose too much by doing that last little bit of charging.
No, and they do have hit and run, so even if you do fluff your charge, alright, yeah, that's maybe what the Initiative 6 is for, there's a good chance you're going to get out.
Yeah.
But overall, your points are better spent elsewhere, I think.
I agree. Okay, Drone Squadron then. Fantastically, universally diverse unit.
Yeah, they'll do whatever you want them to.
It depends how you build the unit as to depend what you can do with them.
Yes, yeah.
Obviously, you've got your gun drone, your marker drone, and your shield drone combinations.
Pick one, would be my advice. Pick one. Yeah. Don't have... Because you've all got to shoot the same target, and when I say pick one, the correct answer is not shield drone.
No.
If you've just got a squad of shield drones, they're useless.
That is... don't do that.
Unless you're going to attach a character to them, of course. I've seen people have a bit of success with the commander, obviously Ballistic Skill 5, with the drone controller.
Yes.
Take 4 or 5 shield drones, park them at the front, then take marker light drones and park them at the back, and then your commander's giving them Ballistic Skill 5. You've got a bunch of marker lights at Ballistic Skill 5, 4 up invulnerable for the shield drones. Useful.
That is a very good way of doing it, is to actually get the commander in to infer that ballistic skill. Yeah. On the other hand, you could, if you wanted to, you could put a line of marker drones in, but then put your gun drones at the front, just to soak up a bit of fire.
You could do, yeah. I mean, if you're going to do that, you'd be better off doing it with shield drones, because they're the same points.
They are the same points. They didn't used to be. And this is one of the best things about the changes to the rules in Tau since this codex. For me, is the price of the drones have made them so much more viable. Yeah,
they are. I mean, as you say, there's now a premise for just taking gun drones.
Yeah.
All right, they're Ballistic Skill 2, well done. They are twin length though, the pulse carbines. Yeah. They get 2 shots. Your odds of hitting are still pretty good. They got pinning, so
all you need is that one wound to be failed.
Yeah.
And that unit has to take the test. Not so helpful if you're fighting an army with high leadership, like Necrons. No. They have high leadership across the whole board, but you know. It does do well across.
I've seen stuff pinned before, mainly because I've done it. As I say, when I played with Pathfinders and you get the carbines, I've pinned stuff before. If I'm not mistaken, it was Chaos Terminators. All right, they got the reroll on the leadership for the character with them, but they failed it twice. Yeah. You know, it happens, and when it happens, it changes the game.
So that's pretty much Drone Squadrons in a nutshell. Very versatile. You can put different things in. Don't put just shield drones in unless you're going to put an independent character with them. Yeah. And keep the units probably quite small, unless you're going to commit.
Yeah, small or big. Don't take 8 gun drones. Don't take 7, 9 gun drones. Take 12 or take 4. 5, 6 is a maybe, perhaps, but yeah, either take a lot or take a few.
You either need a small number because you just a couple of throwaway points, or because you're going to attach them to an independent character, or you take the full lot because they're going to be a force to reckon with on their own.
Yeah.
Okay. Next one, Piranhas.
Piranhas.
I've got one. I rarely use it.
I believe the only time you used it was as a place filler. So you could put it somewhere to stop my monolith from teleporting in that area. Yeah. And for that, it did well.
Now, it doesn't have a lot of clout. It doesn't have a lot of, look out, here I am, I'm going to do some damage. No, but on the other hand, you look at the points value for what you're getting. Okay, you're not getting a lot. You're not getting lots of high-powered stuff. You've not got lots of really cool special rules or anything like that.
But you're not paying a lot either.
You're not paying much for these things. No. And a squadron of them could actually cause some...
They can do well. I mean, we were saying before the recording even started, you get 2 gun drones on it, which you can detach immediately. Now, as we've already established, gun drones are 14 points a model. So 2 of them is 28 points a model. So what you're actually paying is 12 points.
12 points?
For that vehicle with a burst cannon.
For a light, fast skimmer. Is it light?
It's fast skimmer.
Fast skimmer with, front armour of 11. It's not great armour.
It's not, but it will stop bolters.
It will stop bolters, and that's the most important thing.
It is, yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong, people will get around the side. You'll die. If you start fighting Necrons and Tau and people with strength 5 weapons, you're going to die. But if they're wasting shots on a Piranha, maybe that's worth it. 12 points. Yeah. And it's going to take a full squad of 10 probably to kill it.
And you can have what you can do, you can have a squad of 5, detach all the gun drones, have them go off together, and you've got a squad of vehicles.
60 points you paid then.
Yeah.
For a squad of 5 burst cannons. That's actually more effective than getting stealth teams on the board to put burst cannons down. That is 12 points might even be cheaper than the cost of a burst cannon.
Yeah,
I'm not sure on that one, but
it is
can't
around
be
that
far
price.
off.
Yeah, it's about that. So, not like I say, not terribly fantastic,
No.
but bloody cheap. So
I'll mention this now while we're here. The vehicle battle system, normally I wouldn't recommend upgrading at all on such a cheap unit,
No.
because it's a throwaway unit. But the disruption pod giving you shrouded can work very well with the fact that they're a skimmer, and you'll get yourself a 3-up cover save, provided you've moved. Obviously, you get jink. Sorry, that's if you're flat out, of course. If you don't, you get the 4-up cover save. 4-up cover save is still pretty damn good. You know, it's gonna negate shots. People are gonna have to throw some anti-tank or, as we said before, a large amount of strength 5 weapons at you.
yeah, so if that's something that's going to be flying towards them, and very often you can just scare people with them.
Yeah.
A lot of people say, I've got a squadron of 5 skimmers coming towards me. I need to deal with this.
Yes, they look a lot more threatening than they are. Especially if you do go with the Fusion Blaster upgrade. We'll just seamlessly move into that.
Yeah.
The Fusion Blaster is a very nice weapon.
Yeah.
You do need to get close with it.
But they're fast.
They are fast, they're going to get there. If you take Fusion Blaster, detach all the gun drones turn 1, and turbo boost down the side. It's not called turbo boost, it's called flat out. Do that down the side of the board. You've got your cover save then. Alright, you might die, but your opponent's then wasted shots. And if you do that with 5, and even 1 survives, next turn, he's got a 12-inch threat range, plus his 12-inch, or 8-inch rather, for half range on the Fusion Blaster. He can probably take out a vehicle, and if he takes out even a Predator, 150 odd points, for 12 points of Piranha, even for 60 points of Piranha, you know, if you've used all, you've made your money back. So that's an option there.
And the only other thing to mention with these is that because they are cheap and fast, you can have 1 in your army, leave it, or 2, hiding it round the back, especially if you've got spare fast attack choices, which you shouldn't have because you should be taking Pathfinders. If you have got them, you can use them to threaten objectives on turn 5, because you can have them hidden in your half, have them there for four turns, and on that 5th turn, bez them across the board, get them in that threat range so they can test the points, and it can change the course of a game.
It can, yeah, and I mean, they don't have to be useless while they're doing that. You can put 2 Seeker missiles on them, they're 8 points each. Alright, they're a bit of an expense that you don't really want, but if you do that, as Hellish said, take 2, give them both 2 Seeker missiles, put them out of line of sight.
Drop the burst.
Get the gun drones off, get them to go and play whatever they want to do, and have somebody else mark a light for them. And then the fact that they're ballistic skill 3 doesn't matter. The fact that they can't see doesn't matter.
No.
They can just fire those 2 Seeker missiles, probably 1 a turn. I wouldn't throw them all about, and just use up the 1 marker light and kill vehicles.
So if you're not having your tanks in your army because you've gone for battle suits, check out the heavy video later. They can be a good way to bring more Seeker missiles into a force.
Absolutely.
And a cheap way.
Very cheap way. The rest of the vehicle battle systems probably.
I don't know why I don't have more models. I'm going to go and buy some.
When we say it like that, it sounds really enticing.
I think I've been convinced myself that there might be worth having some.
I mean, the main problem you've got here, in fact, they're in fast attack. They're a choice. They're probably like a 6 or a 7. The problem you have there is that Pathfinders are like a 10.
Yeah.
And then the 2 flyers are sort of 9s and 8s. So it's why you wouldn't take 2 Pathfinder squads and a flyer. That's the problem.
Yeah, and then you haven't got room for them.
Yeah.
But if you have,
they may be worth it.
leads us nicely on
to those flyers.
To the flyers. Now, I have quite a lot of experience using the Strike Fighter.
I have quite a lot of experience destroying the Strike Fighter.
Yeah,
I think it's very, very easy. It's a very squishy flyer.
It is a very squishy flyer. The they both are, because their armour is the same.
Yeah, which is the same for all flyers. That's not why I'm saying they're squishy. Let me put that straight out there. I think personally that they're squishy because they're not supersonic, as far as I'm aware. So they're slow. Straight away, they're quite slow. Yeah. They've got 3 hull points, which is average for a flyer.
Normal, yeah.
But the way that Tau play with your gun line of stand at the back, or maybe you've advanced a bit to get to close shooting range, but I'm Necron, so most people don't want to do that. The flyer comes on and then he's on his own in my board half. It doesn't seem to suit the Tau style of play.
No.
If you're lucky enough that you've designated it a target, you've cleared an area and it's just got to kill that last target, well done you, come on, do your run and go off again. But as for the sustained aerial attacks, I don't find them particularly effective.
No. The only thing that is really quite attractive towards this particular model is that quad iron turret.
It is a very nice gun.
It's a very nice gun. The points value here for that gun and all the other bits that you get with it the two-seeker missiles come as standard.
They do come as standard. I mean, when you start taking the stuff off it like that, the burst cannon upgrade would normally, I believe, be 12 points. 10 points. Your two-seeker missiles, 8 points. So you're already, 26 points down from the initial cost. And it's not a particularly expensive flyer anyway.
No, it's something else that the enemy has to deal with.
Yeah.
And that iron turret can be very good to overcharge.
Absolutely. It's just got the 2 options, hasn't it? It doesn't have an overcharge on that one.
Correct.
So you can use it as your standard mode. It's strength 7, AP4 off the top of my head. It might be AP3. Anti-vehicle, anti-heavy infantry.
Yeah.
Don't shoot Terminators. But
no.
crisis battle suits, your Space Marine assault squads, some of the Necron units, Lit Guard, that sort of thing.
And if and it's fantastic for that. And if you're fighting against things like Imperial Guard infantry, orcs, Tyranids, you can then blast the troops.
Yeah, you can throw the large blast in. Some people say it's a bit of a waste for the large blast because obviously it gets 4 shots initially. You do almost as much damage, but really I think that the 4 shots mode is for anti-tank. Pick on some light tanks with that.
Yeah.
Especially being a flyer, you can get around the side so easily.
Yes.
You've got that speed, you can move, I believe. I mean, all my flyers are supersonic, so I might be wrong on this, but I believe you can get 24 inches and still fire.
Yeah, I think so.
Which is brilliant. Yeah. And of course, because you have options of the disruption pod, you're always going to have a cover save. You don't have to jink to get your cover save.
No, but it's a very tiny cover save.
It is, I think it's just the 6 of.
Yeah, it is.
As for the other upgrades on the vehicle, none of them are particularly effective. I mean, we'll probably cover that later on with hammerheads, but I don't think the tower battle systems are very effective at all.
The vehicle ones are not fantastic as they used to be anyway.
No.
And the last thing in the fast attack sections, which we're going back up to, is
we can kind of
Sharp Bomber.
The bomber, personally, and it might just be personal preference, I think the bomber is the better option.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you why, it's those drones actually. It's nothing to do with the bomber itself. It is those drones.
They are very good.
They've got ion rifles. They're twin-linked ion rifles, so obviously ballistic skill 3 while they're on the vehicle. They do drop to 2 when you take them off. They've got interceptor and they've got skyfire. A strength 7 rifle can threaten a flyer.
Yes.
So that's useful. It means you don't have to shoot the flyers with your broadsides, with your own flyers, for example. And a lot of people overlook interceptor. You don't have to shoot a flyer. You know, somebody outflanks with a devilfish, for example, full of bam.
Yeah.
It's only armor 11. You will take it down with an iron rifle.
Yeah.
Very
they
useful.
don't have to shoot the air targets because it's got that interceptor. And then, of course, you've got the bomb. The
bomb is good, actually. It's better than a lot of races' bombs because obviously it is one use only, but it can regenerate.
It's got chances of failing, but
yeah,
the odds are you're probably going to get. I think the average when I worked it out was about 3 or 4.
Yeah.
Was around the average. And in a game, you want to be doing 3 or 4 turns worth of damage at the beginning because while you're getting towards the end of turn 5, 6, 7, the game should have been decided, in my opinion.
It probably should. I mean, it can swing the game. The bomb, I believe, ignores cover. I think all bombs ignore cover anyway. And it's the large blast. Strength 4, AP4, is it?
Strength 5, AP5. I'm just double checking it here. It is a bomb. It is a large blast. And like we said, one use only, but it's got that regenerator on it.
Yeah, and of course you fire it in the essentially in the movement phase. So you could drop that on a unit of infantry that's in cover, for example, or you could just drop it on something on an objective.
Yeah.
And you know, it's a large blast. It's going to cause some damage. You might get a flee reaction, and then you can decide whether or not you're firing the missile pod, which should always be a twin link missile pod.
Yeah.
At those or at something else.
Yeah.
And network marker lights. Can't have enough of those.
Yeah, network marker lights are fantastic things. If you don't know what that one is, it means that the unit firing the marker light can use it itself.
Yes. Yeah.
And they used to be a little bit more common in the old codex. They're a little bit more rare in this one. But the fact that you do have those two-seeker missiles, the same as the strike fighter, but then you also have your network marker lights. Fantastic.
Actually, I'm thinking as well, it could be quite useful if you can get it to work for the drones.
Right.
To get yourself the additional ballistic skill against flyers. I mean, a ballistic skill 4, obviously I'm talking while they're still attached. If you fire that network marker light, one of your ion rifles then is ballistic skill 4. Which gives you, it's not a lot, but it gives you considerably better option to take down a flyer.
Yeah.
So that's worth remembering.
So ironically, what we're saying is the bomber can be good at taking down flyers, and the fighter can be good at taking out tanks.
Yes. The bomber really is a fighter with bombs, and the fighter is I think more of a gunship, I guess.
Yeah, I agree, and that was one of the things that first confused me when I first. I think my problem with these flyers is the names made me try and play them wrong.
Yeah.
I didn't really look properly at what they had, what we've just talked about, and I didn't use it to its strengths in the same way when I first started flying it. Now I really know what they're good at in a better way, despite what their names are. Okay, well, there we go. There's the fast attack section from the Tau Codex. I nearly said Tyranid, but I didn't. But that's all from us for now. If you've liked the video, remember to tick that little box. Any questions, ideas, thoughts, put them in the comments below, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Right.